Hey everybody, I am back with another movie spoiler review. Today I'm going to be covering both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp back to back. If you haven't already, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends. Still working on my, getting to the 400 subscriber goal, which is fairly close. And I will be doing like a Hot Ones challenge video in celebration where I'll actually get the hot sauces, answer all your questions via YouTube. Yeah, and you can definitely subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/talkativecarl, and through the links in the description. You can make special requests if you want me to review a particular comic, movie, TV show, or just a general topic, and I will, definitely give it a shout out. And of course, Patreon members get exclusive first viewings. Anyway, I mean, freaking guess I'm gonna fix this chair. It's wobbly as all hell. Anyway, yeah, Ant-Man, because I wanted to talk about the first two Ant-Man movies, because after Quantumania I feel like I want to revisit the Ant-Man films. If you haven't already, you can check out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl, where I did a MCU ranking tier list. Now, I already got through, after I wrapped up, phase 4 stuff. I went back to put in some stuff, and so moving forward, after each phase, I'll go back and add some stuff. So you already got like Ant-Man Quantumania, having like, it's only the first movie in phase 5. Pretty soon we got Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming up. Then I think they pushed Loki season 2 to 2024. So they're trying to like minimize the amount of content they're rolling out in Disney. So, because that's probably the biggest complaint that people will have for it, and I tend to agree. So that, like, also check out my video, my discussion video of me talking about why phase 4 actually works and it's not as bad as people like to lead you to believe. Phase 4 isn't all that bad. The only issue I probably have with it is they put too much out at once. It's like 3-4 per year, and people, you hear about this superhero fatigue, and that's only because y'all putting so much out. We're not going to forget about you, Disney, if you just scale it back a bit and let us, if you get like, give us 2 things per year, let us digest those for a while, then we'll be looking more, much more forward to what's going on by the following year. So they're probably finally taking that to heart, and I imagine that bodes well for the VFX artists who's working on these films to make it look as good as they do, and give them like the much needed break, because they're, it's not that they're not getting paid, but they ain't getting paid enough where they, as soon as one thing wraps up, they got to go straight to another thing and another thing and another thing, and it's like, I imagine how exhausting that is. So I imagine this benefits them as well. So Ant-Man, I think this is during like yeah, this is definitely during phase 2, and we got Paul Rudd, and I love Paul Rudd. He's like one of those kind of everyman kind of guys where it's like, well, now he's like sexiest man alive according to like Forbes, I think. But he was just like, we all agreed like he was handsome, but not like to the point of you feeling like you're insecure or anything like that. You're right in the middle kind of guy, and he's just fun to be around with. Kind of, I imagine he just comes across like a genuinely like good guy, like very like nicest person in the world. That's how he always seems to come across, and I don't know him personally, but he just seems like that. here he's being let out of prison. Have to be sent to jail because he pulled like a Robin Hood move where he worked for this company who was like, I don't know, it's like hiding profits or embezzling or something or other, and he released all their stuff to the public, showing how horrible this company was being. So he still ended up getting arrested and put in prison because he still, I guess, technically broke the law. But I can't imagine anybody not fighting to get him released after, you know, showing like the level of corruption in the place he was working at. He essentially was a whistleblower, and that should have been like, you know, not frowned upon, or at least, you know, not get sent to prison. But as he comes back and he's trying to reconnect with his daughter Cassie, his ex-wife remarries to this cop, and a cop named Paxton, and this woman Maggie is giving him the riot act. Like, he just want to go see his daughter on her birthday, and it's like, be the hero, Scott, the one she thinks you are. He is. It's like, you giving him crap for shining a light on some corrupt business people. It's like, ah, God, that part was glaring to me. I didn't pick it up at first. I mean, like, people love the Ant-Man films. I like them enough because, like, that's why I brought like the MCU ranking, because I put that, you know, the Ant-Man films, the first two, like, you just middle. They're okay to me. I get it. It's like a heist film with superheroes. I get it. I like me a heist film, but this one is like, I don't hate it. It's like I said, it's a middle of the road for me. It doesn't give me the same, like, oh my God, like, you know, Marvel Civil War or Black Panther or something like that. But what else was I about to say? But if you like the Ant-Man films, you put it higher on the tier list, your personal tier list ranking, that's all well and good. It's like always the same way I feel about the Guardians films. People love the Guardians films. They put it on their top 5. I wouldn't put top 5, top 10 maybe. But I think Guardians 2 is far better. You know, I'm not sure how, like, after part 3 comes out, might change my mind, but for right now, part 2 slightly better. Quantumania, I put slightly, you know, next time I do, after phase 5 wraps up, I'll return to the ranking, and I would immediately put Quantumania on the B tier, slightly above of the first 2 Ant-Man films, because it was good enough. It was with, like, I know Jonathan Majors is going through some crap right now. I personally don't believe he needs to go through this or get anything dropped, because innocent until proven guilty, and when the information is currently being let out right now, seems like he's completely innocent. So hopefully, because right now Disney's making like a really smart move and not immediately dropping them, because I think they learned their lesson after the whole James Gunn fiasco. It's like, okay, let this thing play out. Let's see, you know, how, like, the court records say, and, you know, before we make any kind of sudden decisions, and people, while other people want to shop around ideas on who should replace the role of Kang with, and it's like, y'all are some backstabbing assholes. But anyway, I liked him as Kang. I think he did a good job, and kudos to Disney for not just dropping him. No, we still have him as Kang, because they already shot scenes from Loki season 2, so it's like, you know, he'll be there for season 2. Which, honestly, personally, I think Loki, all the Disney Plus TV shows, Loki is my favorite one. I think Hawkeye is be like my number 2. Anyway, So while Scott is trying to be on like the straight and narrow. Oh, by the way, speaking of Ant-Man, I put for like a comic book review. I think next year I want to do like an Ant-Man. I need to start doing like some, reading of stuff that I really never like, considered. Like I did, one of my earliest comic book reviews was an Invisible Woman. It was like a 5-issue thing, and next year I want to do put Ant-Man on the list because I want to check out an Ant-Man comic, and like because I never read any Ant-Man stories, and I think it was probably do me some good to check out some Ant-Man stuff. Anyway, Scott's trying to hold down a good, steady job so he can start paying child support. However, because of his criminal record, nobody will hire him. Justice system of America, people. But so he works at a Baskin Robbins, which I imagine they put in some money for the endorsement. So he works at a Baskin Robbins, but since he lied on his resume, being like not an ex-con, they have to let him go. So now, because of Louise, got this heist idea, he want to make sure he he has something to get a leg up to get so he can get it started. Now, while we're on the subject on Louise, this might be controversial. I don't care for Louise like that. I personally do not care. I get the actor is funny. I see him in other stuff. He tends to be funny. But this whole diatribe with him, because people are like, I miss Louise. I love when he should recap everything in the MCU. And it's like, no, he shouldn't. Personally, I don't like. No, it's not like it wasn't like it's not like it was a terrible idea to have that gimmick, but it's just something about it is just like, I don't know, it's just like annoyance. I just did like a Renfield review, and I talked about how like Awkwafina's her way of speaking, I really like the way she talks. Louise, kind of polar opposite. I get kind of annoyed with Louise because he seems like he drags the story for me personally. It's like, yeah, man, I talked to this buddy of mine who works with this gas station man, and like, yeah, he talks to this other bro that he's like a cousin of a cousin of mine, and told him my aunt who told me, yeah, it's like, and then he talked about this janitor that knew me, and then it's like he talked to this other bro, my other Hermano, and told me like that, and he told this, and then it's like, and it's like, shut up, I don't care. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, wow. It's like, I don't know. May I use poor choice of words? I don't hate it because the concept of it is like, clever, but I don't know. It's just like, I think if they left it at this movie, then it's like it could be like that. Man, I can like find it appealing because it's like, oh, it's that it's like a clever joke kind of thing. But then it's like one of those jokes that kind of ran into the ground. Personally, you might disagree. I just don't care for the whole Louise song and dance of the dragging out backstory thing. I'm glad he wasn't part of. I want to say the actor. I mean, you can still include the actor, but that whole line of dialogue of backstory, it's like, God, it's a decent sacrifice. I don't really need like, can you imagine? It's like, oh my God, it would be so weird. It's like having Michelle Pfeiffer. It's like, oh yeah, man, I was in Quantum Realm. I met this badass dude named Kang. He was like, yeah, what's up, bro? I'm gonna destroy all multiverse. And it's like, oh God, just to see like the actors trying to mimic is like, words and the way he probably would say it, it's like, oh god, it's like I don't care for it. I'm sorry. But anyway, he hears word about this supposedly rich old man who's gonna be gone for a week. They break in the house. Scott, being an engineer, knows a clever way to get behind this, steel, this particular steel safe door that's the materials, basically the same as like the Titanic. So knowing that, an iceberg took it down, he needs to recreate the temperatures so we can just use chemistry to blow this thing off. So
phrasing.
So he gets through the safe, finds Ant-Man's suit, because Hank Pym is like the original Ant-Man, but Scott Lang is the second mantle of the Ant-Man. So you also meet like Hope Van Dyne, who's the second Wasp, and her mother was the first Wasp. I keep confusing Hope and Janet together. Janet was Hank's wife. Hope is their daughter. And while we're on the subject, because it's gonna be a while before I even do a review with an Ant-Man comic. In case you're not familiar with Ant-Man lore, he and Janet were in the comics were the founding members of the Avengers. Some point along the way, there was a story where Hank, hit his wife. It wasn't like a straight up beating. He just backhanded her one time because he was like frustrated. Their relationship was getting strained and is affecting their marriage and stuff like that. And she's trying to make it work. Blah 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 blah. And then he ends up committing. He did hit her. It was like a hit her. What he did was wrong, clearly. But it was way back, what, like 80s comic when that happened last time I remember. Fast forward to 2023. Still to this day, Marvel writers, or the heads of Marvel, for some odd reason, and it escapes a lot of comic readers to this day, why have you never given Hank any redemption in a comic? Because it's not like he was constantly wailing on, people. He's known for that. He made a horrible mistake, one hit. Wasn't like necessarily on purpose. He just like, it was just like a frustration, like, get away from me, that kind of thing. And it was still awful, but it's like, you're labeling him like, like a wife beater, like he was a consistent wife beater or something, when he's only did that one time. And I wouldn't say it was like quote unquote on purpose, but the Marvel writers never want to let that go. It boggles the mind. There's one $50 million question that a lot of people want to have. It's like, why are you not like letting that go? Because there's a lot of other, because there was like a Iron Man comic that I was reading. It was like during 2020, I think, that he was dealing with, because in the comics it's like Hank merged with Ultron, or Ultron merged with Hank Pym. So it's Hanktron currently right now. Don't know if that's ever been resolved, but he was fighting that guy, and Hanktron was telling Stark, is like how many awful things have you done? You started a civil war, and Hawkeye cheated on crap, not Moondragon, something with a M. Crap, it was like another Marvel hero that he had a relationship with, but he cheated. he starts listening about like a bunch of awful stuff other characters did, but somehow I'm still getting the shaft, and it's like he has a point. And the comic writer at the time, written that, and it's like, okay, y'all know that, y'all clearly know this. Then y'all clearly know, like, it's kind of effed up by this point that you never given. I mean, some people say like, oh, you can say that person was a Skrull at the time. This is like years before the whole situation with Skrull invasion, and it's like, okay, you could have easily said that was a Skrull that time, and that way you can quickly redeem Hank. But no, you're still sticking to your guns and making him like a evil, or at least trying to label him like, oh, you cannot get redemption because you dare to, hit your wife that one time. And it was like a series of blows. It was like I said, outburst, one backhand. He wasn't even, I remember the image of the panel. He wasn't even looking in her direction. He was just focused on something else, and he felt bothered or frustrated. It was like, he was, not making excuses, but you get, like the world's coming around on you kind of situation, and that kind of like that anger released somehow. So that boggles the mind. That still boggles me. I do not understand. I still don't understand. I wish somebody was just like, talk with one of these, not one of the Marvel writers, but somebody in head honcho editorial of Marvel is like, why? Okay, answer this question. Why can we not redeem Hank Pym? Why? That is weird by this point. It happened way in the 80s. We're in 2023 and we're still not allowed to? What is going on? And obviously head honchos of Marvel, like, changed over time, but we still, it's like somebody from the old days left a note for future head honchos, say like, wherever you do not redeem Hank Pym, something like that, because I'll be flabbergasted if that was the case. One moment. Anyway, so Hank set all this up to acquire Scott Lang because he feels like he has what it takes to don the Ant-Man suit, mostly because in case something goes wrong, because he can't do it himself because he's a little older now. If something goes wrong, he had no problem. And Scott even pointed out like he has no problem sacrificing him because Janet's all in her feelings because she wants to wear the suit because she knows how to work and everything like that. But Hank doesn't want what happened, to his wife to happen to his daughter. So they're doing like this kind of like subterfuge where Pym Technologies being like, he was voted out of the company by his former protege Darren Cross. The dick that turns into MODOK later. And he seemingly has like a supposed relationship with Hope, under the pretense that she's angry with him for pushing her away, kind of situation after her mom's death. So she's spying on him just to see how close he is to formulating his own shrinking formula, because he refused to sell it to Shield because he doesn't want it to turn into a weapon, because he knew Howard Stark and that's what he figures Howard was going to do. So he really can't trust he doesn't trust Tony by extension, because you're your father's son. So I would never. You literally made like a battle suit. So you think I'm gonna give you my shrinking technology? Heck no. So Darren Cross, I mean, like, say what you will about the whole MODOK situation, I think he has like more of a character arc with that than this. Even though we only have him in this one movie, but it's like he is like, he's one of those villains that's like, very throwaway. He's no different than like somebody like Jeff Bridges' character Obadiah Stane. Except at least Jeff Bridges kind of brings some kind of presence to the character. We still remember a lot of lines from Obadiah Stane. It's like you cannot quote anything from Darren Cross except for "I'm not a dick," and that was from the third film. But he eventually created his own suit, the Yellow Jacket, which in the comics is a different title that Hank Pym come up with for himself. I do dig the look of the Yellow Jacket suit in the movie. So, Hank and Janet started training Scott to learn how to use the shrinking tech, control it, to be able to shrink and regrow rapidly while maintaining like momentum and using the punching force to like, make sure you pull your punches. You don't want to end up, you still have the mass, so you don't want to take somebody's head off by accident. And learning about all these ants, because Hank loves ants. So he goes and learns about all these different type of ants that do different things. So, they, come up with this heist situation where they want to make sure they sabotage the labs and make sure they steal the Yellow Jacket, so that way Darren can't recreate it in any way. But he's somehow one step ahead, and he finds out, and turns out the people he's selling to is Hydra. Doesn't really care. He's just evil for evil's sake kind of situation. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you need a little something to them, like to make them charismatic so they can stick out to you. Darren doesn't have that. Like I said, he's just like a discount Obadiah Stane. If I give this film any knock against it, it will be the villain. And then I'm sorry to, well, I was about to say to some extent Louise, but no, Darren. Yeah, Darren's probably the only drawback. So, Hank gets shot by accident while trying to stop Darren from selling to Hydra. Everything goes pear-shaped, and Scott goes after Darren, who dons the Yellow Jacket. They fight, and it's also like cool display on the first two films on the regrowing and shrinking kind of stuff. Like in the sequel that I'll cover, you see like Janet grow a Pez dispenser that causes like a car crash kind of situation, or grow a salt shaker to a large barrier kind of situation. So you see Scott and Darren fight inside a briefcase where the phone is playing I forgot what band it was, but it's playing while you see like a giant phone and other pencils and pens and other stuff rolling around. So somehow Darren make sure he found everything he can about Scott. That is another thing. It's like okay, were you spying on them or something? Because how did you figure out that they were working with Scott Lang? I guess he pulled like criminal records and places that Hank was going. I guess he was keeping tabs on him. But how long did you know this before you tried to spring a surprise on him? So Darren goes to try to take Cassie hostage. Him and Scott fight on the Thompson Tank Engine model train set in Cassie's room. And it's a fun display. But then, trying to destroy the suit, Scott realized he has to go subatomic, which is against what Hank warned about, because that's how he lost his wife. It's kind of like the whole Ghostbusters thing where you say don't cross the streams because it's dangerous, but then the only way to defeat the big bad is to actually cross the streams. So it's his cross the streams kind of moment, which is kind of ironic because Scott Lang was in the recent Ghostbusters film. So he goes subatomic just to be able to go right in between the suit because it's very sealed, and sabotages it, forcing a very violent and graphic kind of shrinking on himself. That's the last we've seen of Darren Cross until next time we see him is in Quantumania with his butt out. So seemingly Scott is just like in the quantum realm. He's getting flashes of the Wasp, the original Wasp, and he hears Cassie's voice, which gives him the like that gumption, like, no, I'm going to fix this, and he regrows back into the regular macro space. So everything works out. Oh, and there's a moment where he actually, part of the heist is they need this particular machine in order to fit into their plans to stop Darren Cross. You know, you see Ant-Man fight the Falcon for a little bit. That was pretty dope, because that's one of the things people probably complain about in these during phase 4 is that it doesn't seem like there's no thread between them that links them. You know, their argument could be like Ant-Man. It's like the thread between us when, like, you see like Sam Wilson fighting, you know, Scott kind of situation. It was like a brief thing, it was just a cameo, but by the end of the post credits, you see it's leading to Civil War, and like Sam Wilson's like, yo, I know a guy, so that's where he gets Scott into the fray. So, I mean, it's pretty clever. So, like I said, it's, I agree. You know, there should be outside of the post credits, there should be some kind. I hate to say, we don't need like every Marvel movie to have some kind of cameo from somebody else from a different MCU movie or TV show to make it feel like it's interconnected. They all should be like, it's self-explanatory, they all interconnected, but I think people need that visual through line. So it'd been great to see, like, I don't know, She-Hulk show up for career day at Kamala Khan's school, so you can have some kind of thing like that. I don't know, but yeah, and then of course Hope eventually gets her Wasp costume, the one she's been bitching about for most of the film. Anyway, that is the first Ant-Man movie. Like I said, like, it's okay. It's like, it's one of those okay kind of films. Despite my love for heist films, this is not one of my favorite ones. But like I said, okay. So anyway, I will see you guys in a few minutes while I go right into Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to the first Ant-Man film. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Ant-Man films. How would you rank the Ant-Man films? Because I would rank third, the first one, then the second one is probably like the bottom tier. But we'll get into that. I will see you guys in a little bit. Take care.